Hey everybody, welcome back to why was I about to say Stardew Valley? Lost in Time, the crochet vlog. Oh gosh, the brain is not wanting to brain today. That's what we're gonna be working with. Okay. Yeah. Welcome back to another one of these. Gosh, we're over 20 parts now, aren't we? I don't know what part we're on, like 22 or 23, something like that. I do know we're on chapter 15, and this one is a fairly important chapter. And yeah, the project for today is a work in progress Hufflepuff scarf that I'm not sure if it looks great or not. Hopefully the recipient likes it. I don't know. Why do I make homemade gifts that stress me out because I want the recipient to like them, but I'm not sure if they will? Why do I do this to myself? Anyway, right, last chapter was fairly good. It was just kind of, well, I mean, Pops is back, and time kind of moved on, and either the coven likes it or not, Pops is back in the picture, and he's not moving. He's right there by Eli's side, and she's got a little bit of a support system. Yeah, and it's a good thing, except, well, they're not really an except, but last time she did get taken on a trip. Being a traveler, so much fun. So yeah, that is what his request is all about, is this trip. Yeah, I guess let's just jump into it and enjoy, I guess. I have no idea. Okay. I was tumbling backwards, 1 minute on the couch and the next crash landing on a muddy hill, and I immediately lost my footing. The gray sky spun as I rolled with increasing speed down the sharp slope, my mouth becoming full of mud, dirt, and grass as I tried to scream. My legs became cut up as I went faster and faster, the cold seeping into my skin. I guess a t-shirt and shorts wasn't enough to ward off the brutal wind and rain that was stinging my face. I crashed into an old horse-drawn cart, the wooden splinters immediately digging into my skin, causing blood to trickle down my arms to be swept away in the rain. The gray skies and torrents of rain swam in my vision, the black dots almost making me black out, but I couldn't. I barely heard footsteps sloshing in the rain and foreign tongues yelling above the wind. No. 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 Travelers had rules, lots of them, meant to keep us safe and the world's history intact. Rule number 1 was never be seen or heard. I had just broken it. Blinking rapidly, I struggled to sit up with the wooden wreckage all around me, hissing as another splinter punctured my bare feet, looking around wildly. Oh no, the clergy. Monks with simple robes and hoods, sandals bearing the cross, holding crudely fashioned stakes, townsfolk milling around them with brightly lit torches and rusty pitchforks, all coming out of the dense fog that permeated the area. Vampire hunters, all with the same crazed look in their eyes, the look of murderers and fanatics. I had to go. Now. They spotted me as I bolted, ignoring the sharp pains stabbing in my foot as I tripped on rocks and pebbles on the muddy road. Screams of anger and the thrill of the hunt roared and blended in with the thrashing wind and rain, and I forced myself to run faster. Adrenaline making it possible as I left them behind. I couldn't see where I was going. I was barely able to see 10 feet in front of me. All thoughts of staying hidden and not being seen flew out the window. The only thought was to survive, because this was how travelers died. Soon the smell of burning hay and screams of terror filled my senses, and I slipped to a halt, breathing hard, struggling to determine what I was seeing in front of me. Little village huts burning to the ground in front of me, bloody corpses in the muddy paths, women, children, and animals running loose with terror on their faces. Men of the church doing what they deemed was the commandments of God, to be rid of all unholiness that manifested in vampires. I was in those ages, the Dark Ages. How did they get here so fast? Some of their helpers dragged the severely injured or dead bodies into a large pile near me, the stench of the dead causing bile to rise in my throat. A monk was 20 feet away from me, taking shelter from the rain by being under the barely standing threshold of an abandoned home, looking on with cold satisfaction as his hands tight on his holy Bible. Oh, excuse me, I had a burp. Survival instinct took over, and I leapt to hide behind the corpse pile, ignoring the muddy face of a child. A child. Mere inches away from me. I couldn't. If I broke down, I was dead. Survive. Come back to me. So I forced myself to let go of all emotion and look at the brutality in front of me strategically. These clergy were here for vampires. There must be one around, hiding. If he hadn't run off by now. The town looked as if it had been a fishing village, rotted scales flecking off of the day's catch, the rain making the smell worse. It wasn't a very big village, so there must be no kingdom nearby. Perhaps this was on the edge of a fiefdom? I could barely make out the thatched roofs of more huts down the muddy path, so I knew that the clergy were just getting started. I fervently hoped that the rest of the townspeople got out in time. Not your concern, Eli. Why are you here? Breathing deeply in through my nose and fighting off my gag reflex, I closed my eyes and reached for my magic, my tether to this god-awful place. Where was the artifact? What was it I was meant to see? A small glimmer of feeling warmed my numb bones, and I opened my eyes. It was barely there. A small glowing trail of starlight blue floating like a cloud near the ground, waiting for me to follow it. I glanced around quickly and froze for mere seconds before darting away, ignoring the shouts of the clergy behind me as they gave chase. I heard the whoosh as the corpse pile I had been hiding behind went up in flames, the stench of burning flesh and tar clogging my nostrils. If I had stayed there a second longer. I didn't dare stop to pick off the tar that had gotten in my hair, knotted wet strands sticking to the back of my neck like glue. I hadn't even noticed they were throwing that stuff around while I was trying to find the trail. Too close. Blindly, I ran away from the thundering men hell-bent on my death, struggling not to slip and fall as my battered feet followed the trail. Left, right, up, into an alley, up a ladder. I raced up it and with difficulty shoved the attached bars off the wall, making it harder for them to follow me. The hay roof threatened to give under my slender body, and I climbed even faster, sliding down and leaping across to the next roof. Maybe whoever had the artifact was the vampire they were trying to stake, because I seriously doubted a regular man could have jumped down a 3-story wall and continued to walk. I climbed down with difficulty, dropping down the last 1.5 stories, coming up in a painful barrel roll. The rain whisked away my tears of agony as I ran on a twisted ankle that was black and blue. I couldn't stop for fear of death as they were still hot on my trail. The houses I had just vaulted off and on, there we go. Yeah, that bothered me, sorry. Off and on were slowly dissolving into hot red flames, lighting up the gloomy sky, the rain doing nothing against them. The trail went cold up ahead, a narrow alleyway connecting with the 2 main streets of the small village. No. Where is it? No, this... crap. I moaned to myself, leaning against the wall in agony and despair. I quickly took stock of my faculties. The rain had taken away all feeling, and if I continued to stay out here, I would soon get hypothermia. My shirt was half ripped away, showing some of my bra, and there was a nasty gash on my abdomen. A thick piece of wooden stake was poking my underarm, and I saw in horror it was embedded in my side. My ankle was twisted and my feet were bleeding. I had cuts, scrapes, and bruises everywhere and was bleeding like a gutted pig. I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't do anything about the stake because it would gush more blood. I didn't have a chance to do anything, actually, because suddenly strong masculine arms grabbed me harshly and pulled me back through a doorway I hadn't noticed before. The door opening and closing faster than my human eyes could keep up with, and I was suddenly enveloped in complete darkness. I was still, and he was behind me, gripping my arm dangerously and a hand covering my mouth. Well, what have we here? His husky voice neared my ear, and I stilled as he smelled my wounds. Someone a bit far from home, he continued, his fingers digging into my face. I knew who it was without looking. His accent had changed, and he was a lot rougher, more dangerous. but it was still Dracula. No. This was how Dracula used to be. All of a sudden, I just wanted to go home. 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 Home is safe. This is not. I felt the atmosphere shift. I felt the atmosphere shift as he smelled me again. This is getting really weird. And he stiffened. I know what you are. No, you don't. Nope. You really, really don't. Traveler. Crap. I straightened, and the hand that had been covering my mouth dropped my throat. A subtle threat. I couldn't help it. My heart sped up, and I could practically feel him smile at my fear. Dang you, vamp. You took something from me. His mouth got closer to my ear, and I winced slightly. I want it back. Say what now? I didn't take anything from him. Oh, crap. The button. Who would have thought I had a purpose? I winced as my voice sounded raspy. I didn't take it, but I know what you want. But I don't have it. His hand tightened around my neck and I whimpered, eyes clenched shut. Lies, he hissed, his fangs making little snapping sounds as he did so. I am sure just to scare me. It worked. No, I'm not. I know where it is, and I could get it to you in the future. My present, I said quickly as I sensed him about to end me. Look at my clothes, I'm not lying. No one wears shorts like these, and this tank top isn't even in this century. You're smelling me like a dog in heat. You know I don't smell like this place. I'm not from here. I'm not from this time. Another rule out the window. Never admit you're from the future. Dracula seemed to consider my words, and I almost collapsed with relief when the hand around my neck loosened a tad. Blood rushed to my head, and I felt woozy. You say I believe you, he began thoughtfully. How would I get my possession back? I felt beads of wet rain trickle down the back of my neck, and I wanted to shudder and scratch my skin off, but I forced myself to stay still with difficulty. Swallowing, painfully aware of the bruises forming under his tight grip, I answered him honestly. I could give it to you in my time, in my present. I already know you. Know who you are, because you found me years ago. And now I know why. Time was a fickle thing. The only way Dracula, my Dracula, knew of me now was because of the right now, because of this trip. This Dracula, the one choking me, had to know what my Dracula knew to find me, even before I was born. All of this registered, and a headache began to form between my temples. And what time is your present? He sneered, fingers tensing again. October 2015. He chuckled and tightened his hold on my tender neck. I don't know what that is, little dove, he snarled softly into my ear, and I flinched, gritting my teeth. 2010 5. Many years into the future. I would love to say that you're the king of the vampires and crap like that, but I don't know. What I do know is that I was 13 when you first found me and helped me out of a bind. I had no idea how you knew my name. You have since then shown up unexpectedly, watching out for me. I have never had to give anything in exchange for your help, because you knew that when the time came, I would fulfill the bargain I am proposing to you. I growled and took a deep breath before continuing. I know you have something of value on you, something that isn't yours, something magical that called me here. I have something you want many years from now. You have something I want right now. It will take time for me to get it to you, but you will have it before the holidays are over in my time. My voice softened. I am asking you to trust me. You know of my kind. I don't know if we are trustworthy in this age, but I am telling you I am. That was it. There it was, all out in the open. I only hoped it would be enough to keep me alive. For a tense minute, no one spoke. Excuse me. The foreign shouts of the clergy were creeping closer and closer, and we both knew we didn't have much longer before it was all over. Then Dracula blew out a breath and took his hand off my pained throat, stepping back. I swallowed again, tenderly touching my neck and wincing. This was going to leave quite a mark. It's time to go, he said suddenly, gripping my upper arm and flinging the door open, the gray hazy light nearly blinding me as he dragged me out of the enclosure I had been prisoner to. He was running and I was stumbling to keep up. I had never been dragged by a vampire before. It was not fun. The clergy was close behind us, but the fog actually covered our escape quite well. I could barely see the hazy light of the torches as we ran. 2 dark, sullen huts appeared in front of us, and all of a sudden a body fell, a stake thrown into his heart like a bullseye. Dracula continued his ruthless assault, letting go of my arm in one smooth motion and appearing behind the fallen man's companion, his neck making an audible snap, the body falling lifelessly at Dracula's muddy feet. I stumbled into the mud, crying as my wrist sprained with the impact. The rain was coming down even harder now, and lightning flashed and zinged through the air, striking nearby. Someone screamed, and I looked quickly over to my left, eyes widening in horror as Dracula was there, feeding on the neck of the poor clergyman. I flinched as the mud made a squelching thump as his bloody broken body hit the ground. Then Dracula was hoisting me up and out of the mud again, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, his cold black eyes sparking with insanity. Oh God. Then we were running away from the village. Someone shouted behind us, and the clergy gave chase, some of the townsfolk charging towards us on horseback, pitchforks held like lances, riding for our heads. Stakes were being thrown, and a cross bounced off of Dracula's coat. He snarled in anger and pain, running even faster. At some point, he simply picked me up and ran with supernatural speed, my weight not even slowing him down. The world spun around and round as he skidded to a muddy halt on the edge of a cliff, and we had nowhere else to go. He set me roughly to my feet, fangs bared and barely restrained anger. I coughed and saw blood. I couldn't go on like this. I had lost too much blood and I was seeing double vision. But even in my injured state, I knew what we had to do. "You're gonna have to jump," I slurred, losing my balance and falling to the ground with a sob as I landed on my ankle. Dracula cursed, pacing around. He had bought his time, but not near enough. I blinked, struggling to see over the edge in the pouring rain. The water was crashing into the jagged black rocks jutting out of the ocean, and it made... trigger warning, I guess. Well, I guess all of this might be... made Suicide Bridge look like a small leap in comparison. Hitting that water would hurt like nothing else if not kill me instantly. I would just have to risk it. Luckily, once I had the artifact, it would hopefully send me home just before hitting that water. Dracula would survive. He's a vampire. They were tough. "We're gonna have to jump, and you have to give me that necklace so I can get home." Slurred words poured out of my mouth, much like the water from the sky. Double vision hit me again, and the world spun. Was that a hurricane out there? Oh, wow. Dracula cursed again at my side in an instant. "Swear in blood I will get that button back then." His hand was outstretched and colored red. Red, from the blood seeping from the cut on his palm. A blood oath. Shakily, I looked at my hand, biting my lip in a daze. I don't have a knife." Dracula took my hand, surprisingly gentle, and with a cold kiss, sliced my palm with his sharp fang. I didn't feel it. I was too fascinated with the hurricane. I wonder what it's like to swim in one. Oh wait, I already did, didn't I? No, I walked. Dimly, I felt a shake on it, and the magic bound us together for time. A very, very long time. Still holding my hand, he pulled me to my broken feet. Slowly, he pulled a necklace out of his coat, staring at it, then at me, gazing into my eyes with feral curiosity. "What is your name, Dove?" I swallowed thickly. Is my tongue swollen? Why do I taste blood? Aliana? No, Eli. I go by Eli. The clergy crested the small hill and rushed to surround us. But it was like everything went into slow motion except for Dracula. The shouts and the curses of the townsfolk turned to sluggish moans. The rain slowed down to be viewed in amazing clarity, and the howls of the hurricane took too long to be properly distinguished from the wind. Dracula bowed and kissed the back of my hand. Nice to meet you, little dove. Then the necklace was placed in my bleeding hand, my fingers locked around it. Together we leaped off the cliff, and everything went back to normal speed as we plummeted to our deaths. They say gravity is a witch, and they were right. I watched in horror, screaming as we raced to the water's angry, frothy surface, and I whipped my head to look at Dracula one last time. His face was ageless, determined, his body rigid and straight like an arrow. He would survive this. Then a rift opened up under my feet, and I tumbled through time and space once more, crash landing on the glass coffee table, sharp, jagged shards instantly cutting into my back as it broke under my collision. I groaned and whimpered as screams erupted around me, the light trying to sear my eyeballs under my clenched eyelids. Warmth rushed to my frozen skin, but all I felt was just sheer relief. I had made it. I was home. I was alive. I had made it. Holy hell, Tiger, what the... Pop's voice sounded like heaven to my ears, and mixed with the shrieks and voices of everyone else. Hands hurried to lift my battered body, and I groaned as I felt the smooth leather of the couch underneath me. Not the couch! There will be blood everywhere! Ariana's voice sounded like nails hitting the chalkboard of my pounding head, and I screwed my face against the light. She, of course, was ignored. Pop, lights. Thankfully, he heard my croaks for help and complied. Finally, I could open my eyes in the blissful shadows. Or just I, since my left one didn't want to work properly. Caroline's pale, panicked face entered my vision, and she tried taking my hand. The hand with the necklace clenched tightly in my fist. No. Pop. Top right drawer of my desk. The translucent silvery bags. I need a medium one now. Understanding warmed in his eyes, and he hurried away, intent on being right back. I tried to sit up, but found that nothing was working, so I stopped. Raid's melodic voice filled the room. Where's the first aid kit? She needs medical attention now. Dim's frantic eyes met mine, and he bolted out of the room. My birthday gift from him was in my room, the largest first aid kit known to man. Both he and Pop rushed back in about the same time, and I gratefully lifted my fist in the air. He opened the baggie, and I dropped the necklace inside of it. Brilliant light shone, and magic zipped and popped inside the bag as he immediately closed it. And for a moment, everyone watched in awe as the bag moved of its own accord, like it was popping popcorn in the bag instead of a simple necklace. No doubt that was a powerful artifact. Ray was the first to recover and showed her skills as a nurse with quick efficiency, tending to my many wounds as she shooed everyone else away so she had room to work. I watched as Pop turned to Dim, narrowing his eyes at him. How did you know Tiger had a first aid kit in her room? I didn't miss as his eyes flashed coldly as he downright glared at Ariana, who looked despairingly at the couch. Dim fidgeted, blushing slightly. I gave it to her for her 17th birthday. He moved away from Pop, who had a thoughtful expression on his face, to the back of the couch, leaning over it to look closely at my bloody face. Leah, what happened to Happy 17th? Don't die, he whispered with a smirk, relief clear in his gray eyes. I answered him honestly, voice raspy. I said I tried, didn't I? Do I look dead to you? He laughed, shaking his head ruefully, before running his hand through his messy bangs. That you did. That you did. And that was how things got interesting again. Oh well, I enjoyed the piece while it lasted. And that's the end of that chapter. Woo! Short, but very busy. Man. I've been looking forward to getting into this chapter for a while, and honestly, I think it's probably one of the better ones that I wrote for this entire book. But little fun fact. This was maybe one of the second or third scenes that I'd actually thought of for the book when the book came to fruition. I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but there's a song. Oh gosh, is it by Lorde? I think it's by Lorde. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And that was, the first time I heard it was, there was a picture of Dracula, and I just, like, listened to that song on repeat for, like, 3 days straight and had 3 different scenes stuck in my head, and they morphed into Lost in Time. And this was the second scene, this chapter, specifically with the Dracula and everything else. Now, in the rewrite, a few minor details are going to be changed. I do think her knowing and just them not mentioning the button, like he should mention it sooner and stuff. And you might be wondering, like, what's the big deal with the button? And what I'm gonna say is, as I recall at least, did not really have, like, for Dracula, right? It's just a button. I kind of didn't have, like, a very good reason for why he would want it back, but now I do, and all I will say on that is, a while ago, obviously a very, very long time ago, again, back in the Dark Ages, he quite simply fell in love, had a mate, but she was mortal, and she didn't want to be turned. And her dying act was that coat. And as long as it is complete and intact, he gets certain magical protections. And it's essentially powered by her soul and her love for him. But it has to be intact. So, obviously there's quite a bit of potential power with that coat, but for him, I can say that it's quite a bit of sentimental value because the way he sees it, her soul is always with him in that coat, but there's a piece of her soul not with him, and that coat, if it's not intact, buttons included. So he wants that back. I mean, again, I'm kind of reading it with you guys, so I'm pretty sure I didn't include, like, a very good reason. But that'll be the new reason, unless I did include a reason, in which case I might just think about it some more. But that's kind of what I'm going with. Working with for now as an idea. I don't know, you guys can tell me if that's a good idea or not. I'm really excited about the rewrite, but it sucks because I don't really have anybody to talk to, like, bounce ideas off of, you know? I mean, author bias is it's a real thing for me, and especially with me, like, self-esteem, like, doing these videos every week, I love doing them once I get into them, but I am so scared to hit the record button to begin reading. I get so nervous, and, you know, I mean, this is really my soul, and I'm putting it out there, and it's tough. You know, it's really tough. Like, constructive criticism is one thing, and I definitely want constructive criticism. It's just tough to open myself up, even now, but I'm months later doing it, and I will continue to do it until it's done. Because it's a good experience, and I do really enjoy it, and I'm so grateful for my community for allowing me and encouraging me. And those of you know who you are. Yeah, like, And one thing I've even considered doing is possibly making a video showing some of these ideas and stuff, and it's like, does this sound like a good idea? Does it not? It's hard. It's really hard. Because what I'm really trying to amp myself up to do is to rewrite these and to publish. Whether that's through an actual publishing house or if that's self-publishing. Like, just publish something. But I feel like I'm not good enough or that. And it's like both of my books, which is That and Lost in Time, like, they need to be rewritten. They need the stories. They need to evolve. But it's like, I'm also worried, well, I always think that way. Probably yes, but... Oh, yeah, anyway, sorry for just rambling. Sorry. Hopefully you enjoyed. Yeah, that was chapter 17, his request. Chapter 16 is new experiences, it looks like. Yeah, we're at 137 out of 207, so it's, oh, not exactly. What is that, 70 pages left? 70 pages. We are getting there, guys. A little bit of a marathon, but it's been a fun one. At least for me. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And I don't know, I guess if you guys kind of want a little bit of a, this is what I'm thinking of for the rewrite video or stuff, I guess just let me know. I don't know. Yeah. Have a great Tuesday and a great week, and I'll see whoever is here for next time, I guess. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm biting disparaging comments about myself. I am biting them back. I will not say them. Have a great week, guys. Thanks for being here. Bye.